Has anyone ever given non-alcoholic beer to someone and they made a fool of themselves? Stories? We gave this girl at my old work, who was underage, O'Dowell's, and she, I guess, was unaware it was non-alcoholic. She spent the whole night climbing on guys from my work, dancing like an idiot, and even slurring her speech. When she started to get irritating after the funny wore off, we decided to tell her that the beer was non-alcoholic. She claimed that she had gotten drunk before she showed up to the party. We drove her there, from work. I suppose she was too drunk to remember that. Psychosomatic inebriation is still inebriation. We did this to a friend of ours in college because he would get drunk after 2-3 beers. One night we were feeding him non-alcoholic beer to test him and he was really excited because he was sober after his 6th. Turns out he was not faking being drunk. He was pee when we told him. My friends did that to me only with wine. I was so happy I wasn't drunk after 1 glass. Bastards. My psychology teacher senior year told us how every Thanksgiving when her giant family is together they serve non-alcoholic margaritas. But this one aunt thinks there's alcohol in them and has made a fool of herself every year for a long time. Some people just need an excuse to let loose. I hope they never tell her. We gave a girl a piece of candy and told her it was ecstasy. It was really windy that night and she ran out on a hill and started yelling, "I'm flying. I feel like I can fly," in front of everyone. Funny thing is, everybody knew, but giving a dog a handy is fricked up. Amen, brother. One time some people in my school gave their friend a water bottle, told him it's filled with vodka. They put a few drops in, and then he got wasted. I'm pretty sure he ended up with nothing but his underwear on in the front lawn trying to get with a girl. I don't think anyone's ever told him. One time when my uncle was in college, he went to a frat party at this lake house. They had finished a bottle of Everclear and my uncle had filled it with water. Some upperclassmen, he was a freshman, were trying to show each other up with how badass they were. So my uncle was like, "Watch this," and chugged the water from the Everclear bottle. People were impressed and scared shitless. Did they not stand within 5 feet of him talking? My story is actually the opposite. It was my 16th birthday and my parents allowed me to have friends over and have some drinks. Laid back parents. Didn't mind if we drank as long as it was in the house. Anyways, they were making me strong drinks and I hated the taste, so I would trade with my friend. They had been giving her virgin drinks, without her knowledge. Well, an hour later she is drunk as frick because she had been drinking mine. Nobody knew this, so they all start making fun of her for it and she got upset and ended up crying in the bathroom and freaking out because she felt drunk but everyone was telling her she wasn't drinking, causing her to be confused as frick. I'm 22 now and this came up in a conversation with that same friend recently and we put the pieces together finally. We didn't realize my drinks were super strong while hers were completely virgin. Freshman year, my friends and I were hanging out at one of their houses. The kid, whose house we were hanging out at, had 2 older brothers who gave us some beer, all non-alcoholic, but didn't tell us. A lot of us take a few sips, but don't finish because it tastes like crap and it was our first time. But this kid, whose brothers gave it to us, drinks a ton to be a big man. He gets hyper and silly, but generally handles it, which gives him this ego that he's a man and can drink a lot. Fast forward to the next time he stumbles on all this real beer at home. He drinks a ton of it because he handled a lot his first time and did well, so he thinks he can do better. His parents come home and find him violently puking everywhere, call an ambulance and get his stomach pumped. TLDR. Friend drinks a lot of non-alcoholic beer first time, thinks he can handle a lot. Next time finds real beer, doesn't know the difference, gets violently ill, has stomach pumped. I find this just completely bizarre. I find that with beer, the limiting factor in how much I can drink has nothing to do with alcohol content and everything to do with the volume of liquid itself. The point being that my stomach will fill up and force me to vomit long before I would be at the point of getting alcohol poisoning. Not alcohol, but a friend of mine back in high school gave his sister a re-rolled cigarette and told her it was laced with H or something. She was acting like she was fried out of her mind until my friend told the truth. My freshman year of college we had this idea and filled empty vodka handles with water and made girls drinks with it. We were kind of getting fed up with the idea that so many girls consistently showed up expecting alcohol for free even when we weren't having parties. A few girls started acting drunk. I don't think anyone found out or told anyone, but it was funny to watch. One time some friends and I were cooking up some shroom tea, which tastes pretty awful. We always used Purplosaurus Rex Kool-Aid and a ton of sugar. Well, this one chick that no one liked invited herself over and we didn't want to waste our shrooms on her, so we just made a batch of regular Kool-Aid for her and mixed it with some sweet tea. She had never shroomed before. That bee was tripping balls like 30 minutes later, hallucinating and all kinds of crap. I've shroomed many times and never once have I had a hallucination on it, but she saw Madonna in the ceiling or some crap like that. We got her all scared that she should never shroom alone or she would have bad trip, and then we kicked her out. Saw her 2 weeks later and she complained that she was freaking out all night and ended up telling her mom, and her mom sat up with her all night so she would be okay. We never told her, she just drank some Kool-Aid and tea. My sister is currently studying to get her PhD in psychology, and they did this experiment with 12 people. 6 receiving beer with alcohol, 6 receiving beer without alcohol. The ones that got beers without alcohol acted drunker than those with the alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant, you see? Maybe unrelated, but some guy advises actors who are supposed to be drunk in a scene not to act drunk, but like a drunk man trying hard to seem sober. Friends reunion on a bar. A friend of mine orders a vodka with Red Bull, sips it, and pass it to me asking me if it tastes funny. He'll give it a sip, and before I could say something his girlfriend takes the glass, takes a sip and starts making gestures like she just drank the strongest thing ever. They forgot to add a vodka. That was the funny taste. Always tough trying to remember what ingredients are in a vodka with Red Bull. In all fairness, it seems like a big part of the lowering of inhibitions when you're drunk is completely mental. I went through a very paranoid drinking phase where I was always self-conscious of how I came off when I was drunk. I hate waking up the next morning and making myself cringe because of something embarrassing I'd done. So I became particularly good at never seeming drunk even though I was. To this day, I still do this, and now I actually don't have to try and seem not drunk anymore. It's completely natural. I might still slow my words and wobble a little, but other than that, I'm completely self-aware. My point is that anyone can condition themselves into acting normal, unless I'm some sort of special case, even when they're inebriated. The lowering of inhibitions isn't completely caused by alcohol. This probably goes both ways. Kids can really believe they're drunk if you convince them they are. Agreed. I usually hold myself together very well until I get home or away from people. Heck, yesterday I was having a legit conversation about baseball, and then not even 5 minutes later on my way home I was riding my bike home and freaking destroyed a mailbox because I couldn't ride straight. Crap happens. This one time my older sister was throwing a party while our parents were away. I was pretty worried about her druggy friends freaking up the house. So me and my friends got a keg of non-alcoholic beer to, you know what? Frick it. It was gonna be that one episode of Freaks and Geeks. I immediately thought of that show when I saw this thread. My friend's girlfriend always used to get really drunk really fast. The rest of us had our suspicions on whether or not she was actually drunk. So I made her a drink that was a cup full of soda with a cap full of peach schnapps on the very top. She spent the next hour getting hammered and constantly watering down the drink with more soda. We never said anything to her about it, but we make fun of her for it endlessly. TL. DR. Friends GF claimed to get drunk off a cap full of peach schnapps. Non-alcoholic beer is a strange thing. When I was in Afghanistan, my buddy and I would liberate a flat of NA Heineken and drink a bunch while watching movies, trying to feel like we were at home. You know you're not drinking alcoholic beer, but after a few you feel a little different. Maybe it was the placebo effect, or the fact we drank 20 apiece. Well, 20 non-alcoholic beers are equivalent to about 2 regular beers, so maybe you did really get a slight buzz. Honestly, you have to give credit where credit is due. The placebo effect is quite real. Also, I think simply being around a bunch of drunk people can have an effect on someone as well. I like to call it getting drunk by osmosis. When I was pregnant I still went out with my friends occasionally, and although I would knowingly be drinking ice water, being around drunk people seriously made me experience mild sensations of intoxication. Slightly tipsy, everything seems a bit funnier, and you're more relaxed, i.e., less inhibited. Has anyone else experienced something like that? I heard someone say once that people drink because they want to lower their standards without people judging them for having low standards, and alcohol gives them a way to do that. These stories pretty much confirm that. I have an Asian friend who has the opposite problem. She gets wasted off of the most minuscule amount of alcohol. She'll order a Bloody Mary, and after the first inch of it, she's completely flushed in the face. Her skin is burning hot and her fingers get all swollen and tingly. Within an hour, she is sober and hungover. Cheapest date ever. Company owner I knew of would take the team out drinking. New people usually got an initiation. He would pre-arrange with the bartender to serve everyone shots of water, but the new guy gets tequila. Anyone who orders a round of shots knows everyone is getting water while new guy gets another shot of tequila. Nope. But my mom did think Kahlua was non-alcohol, so she would put me double shots in my cup with a little bit of milk to give me the coffee flavor. She did this from when I was about 4-15. Then I told her the bottle said it did have alcohol in it. She was mortified, but laughed and said no wonder you were always such a good kid. Back in high school a group of my friends would throw parties a couple times a week. There was a kid that hung out with all of us that nobody really liked. He would always say he could drink everyone under the table because he was Irish. But he was the kind of guy that would take like 2 drinks from a beer then strategically leave it somewhere then go grab another one to make it seem like he was drinking more than he actually was. So one night we get tired of his bulls so we trick him into drinking O'Dow's. Halfway through the night he is acting really drunk and out of nowhere he whips his junk out thinking we were playing that game from waiting. After that night he was forever known as Antzilla. TLDR tricked kid into getting drunk on Ottles and he whipped his junk out earning the nickname Antzilla. Every group of friends has that guy who nobody likes, and if you don't, that guy is you. Am I the only one trying to figure out how the frick you give a dog a handy while your friends watch? What the actual fricking frick? I sold Welch's fruit snacks to some guy saying it was infused with pot. He acted high for the rest of the class and I made $20. I sold him pot around 3 times a week. Not alcohol but same concept. For those of you asking how much I made in total, it was somewhere in the range of $3,000-$3,500. I never got in trouble for this. I had a party at my house and my 2 friends both wanted pina coladas. I'm sure I spelled it wrong, so I fixed both of them some. As I was making them I looked over at my best friend while holding up a near empty bottle of rum and said I bet they wouldn't even notice if we didn't put any rum in there. My friend nodded in agreement. I served both the chicks virgin drinks multiple times. Then chick A starts acting like she is feeling it and acting all drunk, flashing us. She couldn't walk straight. Then after the 3rd drink chick B looks me square in the face and said kicking back 32 you didn't put any rum in here did you? I grinned like a horse eating bras. I spiked chick B's drink since she caught on and let chick A have a couple more. She kept making a fool of herself which she didn't care about anyways. She was always a little crazy and fun. Then we told her and the look on her face was something I will never forget. It was a combo embarrassment, I don't give a crap, and pee all at the same time. She was a good sport about it though. She gave me a full-on moon for it. I could never figure out if that was supposed to be a punishment. I always considered it more of a reward. A couple of years ago I knew this girl who liked to think of herself as a massive badass and would drink every weekend and then come into school the next day and tell us about the crazy crap she did last night. She was 15 at the time. Anyways, once at a party, these guys decided to frick with her and emptied out a bottle of vodka into another container. They then filled a vodka bottle with water. During a party she was running around the place screaming about how smashed she was and how she needed to get more drunk, so they handed her the vodka. She took a swig and frowned. Then she took another swig and spat it out exclaiming, "Ugh, this isn't vodka, this is water." Then, "I crap you not." She walked into the kitchen and rinsed out her mouth with water to get rid of the taste of water. At least she wasn't faking, but rinsing water with water is gold. One time we went out to a different city to party with everyone who graduated from school as well. This one girl I just met had about one cruiser and started acting drunk and guided my hands around her to feel her up because she was wearing a dress with a hole in it. It was an open dress. Needless to say, I did not complain. When I was a senior in high school, the freshmen thought that we were alcoholics and the coolest thing since sliced bread. This one really annoying girl drank half of one and ended out getting on her parents' table and dancing. It was a glass top and she fell through. She ended out grounded and made fun of for the rest of her high school experience. Still makes me smile. Percolator. When I was younger, my dad would throw company parties for his employees every Christmas. My dad was Pentecostal preacher and was pretty adamant against drinking. For toasts and such, he would have them set apple cider bottles at each table and at the drinks table. I saw this one guy keep coming back up every 15-20 minutes excited about what he thought was an open bar. By the end of the night he was so fricked up he could barely walk. No one ever told him it wasn't alcohol, but they always kidded with him about how drunk he was. The end of the night, roughly equivalent to the butt of a soldier. I wish I'd come to this thread earlier. My sophomore year of college, on the 31st of March, I had a kegger at my house. I bought 2 kegs and had maybe 100 people over. People were drinking heavily, of course, and started to get pretty drunk. Just after midnight, I cut the music, stood up on my coffee table, and announced, "I've got a secret to share with all of you. You've all been drinking O'Dowell's all night. April Fools." The party ended shortly thereafter. I once got a guy to do vitamin C. My buddy and me had a tab crushed for fast use next time we dosed. We head down the street to get some pizza and this guy comes up asking if we had any Crystal. One look at each other and we are already on the same page. We end up selling him a dime of vitamin C and he comes back a few days later for more. Felt kind of bad, but tweakers are too easy to mess with. This was about 20ish years ago when I was a teen. For the record, I've been clean for ages and am a social worker now. Congrats on getting clean. Not beer, but similar. At a party once, some guys were rolling up weed, and this girl called Kate was being a colossal bee. The regular party bee stuff, making fun of people, acting like she was the hottest girl in the room. She really wasn't, etc. So she comes up to these guys and says, "I want a joint now." The guys say, "We've run out." BS. But we're picking up some more in a bit. 20 minutes later, I head outside to make a phone call, and I see one of the guys grab some leaves, crush them up, mix them together with some of his butt hairs and some tobacco, roll it up, and go back inside and hand it to her. She lights it, and then proceeds to make an absolute ass of herself. Mix them together with some of his butt hairs, and then proceeds to make an absolute ass of herself. Nice. Not non-alcoholic beer, but a bottle of PS. Story goes, we were over a friend's house sitting around a fire out back having some beers. We were all around 18-19. One of our friend's little brothers down the street had some friends over and they were around 14-15. They kept coming down and trying to get beers off of us, getting real annoying. One of the kids was one of those douches that hit puberty early and thought he was the crap cause of it and kept nagging us. We ended up taking an empty bottle and a couple of us pee in it. We tossed it in the freezer for around half an hour, then recapped it the best we could. Once it was ready, we called them up and said we would give them a few beers if the one kid could beat one of us in a chugging contest. The douche accepted and 5 minutes later he was at the door. We took him out back and handed him the opened bottle. They started the epic chugging contest and I don't think my friend made it 2 seconds before he spit his beer everywhere while this kid just kept downing this bottle of pee. He somehow didn't realize it was pee till one of his friends told him later that night. I guess it was believable since it was a Bud Light bottle. There was this kid at my school who we all suspected of being a bit of a narc, and because of this he wasn't well liked. One day he was walking down the halls asking out loud, "Hey, do you know where to get pot?" Someone ended pointing him my direction and he came up and asked me individually at lunch. I was out of trees at the time so I said no at first. Later I had my English class outside. Yeah, weird I know. Hippie teacher. I was playing with the freshly cut grass when I looked down and saw a clumped up pile of grass which actually looked a bit like a nug. So I bagged it up and sold it to the douchebag snitch. He went to the principal with a ziploc of grass. Actual grass. Cops were called and saw almost immediately it was from the lawn. Principal didn't believe his other stories after this. TLDR. Sold a kid weed. Tried to turn me in with the principal for a Ziploc bag full of actual lawn grass. I was at an LSD party when I was like 19 or something, and this girl my buddy was dating gave this 15-year-old kid a piece of regular paper saying it was acid. A bit later, he was like, "Huh, I'm totally tripping." The girl convinced him to let her cut his hair, saying it would feel awesome, and I don't know if he had a placebo effect or if he was too deep in his lie, but he let her and she fricked his hair up. I had a friend pour 3 water shots for my drunk ra, and she made the vodka face after each shot. Then she passed out on a bed, started puking, and we got her out of the apartment we were in to walk her back to her room on my floor. Walking just outside of the room we left, she ran into a wall, fell over, puked in front of a ton of residents on my floor, and then we snuck her up in the stairs to avoid the desk ras. TLDR. My old ra is a buzzkill. One night during pledging they brought out 3 coolers filled with beer and made us drink it in like 20 minutes. Some guys had over 10 cups of beer. Kids were falling all over the place and couldn't control themselves and crap talking the pledge masters. They then told us it was all odals and the kids who thought they were drunk were really pee off and had a rough few days. They were so embarrassed. They were really shaken up by it. My friends went to a party with a tray of what they told everyone were special brownies. They were normal brownies. Unfortunately, I wasn't at this particular party, but I heard that one friend of mine made a fool of himself, telling everyone I'm so freaking high right now. This is probably going to be buried, and I feel like crap about it, but I'll tell it anyway. I used to work at a catering hall in a small town on the New York-Pennsylvania border. I worked as a bartender when things got a little tight. I knew how to make some drinks and whatnot. So, in my hometown, people can speak with a wide variety of accents. So, one night when I'm working bar, a guy comes up to me and asks for any Coors. So I reach down into the cooler and get him a Coors Original or whatever and hand it to him. However, I was instructed to always wrap a napkin around the drinks so the customers didn't leave them on the bar top. So I give this guy about 6 of these beers in the end. And in the end his wife comes up to me screaming and him crying because he fell off the wagon. He had asked for NA Coors, non-alcoholic Coors. Sucked butt. I think this is sort of a crappy thing to do to people. The placebo effect is a real thing. It's pretty weird, too. People can legitimately feel drunk even though they aren't, just because they think they've consumed quite a bit of alcohol. And then whoever you pranked or whatever is horribly embarrassed and everyone thinks they're a stupid fake. Which just seems sort of inconsiderate. A friend and I were working as bartenders at a corporate function a few years ago. It was a big lawyer firm's work party on the 20th floor of their building. They were to provide the alcohol and we would handle everything else. They chose pre-mixed cocktails, something we would never normally use. The party got in full swing. We were pouring out pina coladas, margaritas, daiquiris. Music was blasting. SingStar started up. A dance floor got going and everyone was getting very merry indeed. Some lawyers got overly loud. Some turned into drunk idiots. At the end of the night after it had all finished, my friend and I went back to the bar we work at, having taken some of the leftover bottles from the function. Only then did we realize that we were supposed to add a base alcohol to the bottles. The bottles contained all the non-alcoholic ingredients that went into the cocktails. We had been serving non-alcoholic mixer all night. Not non-alcoholic beer, and not me, but in high school my boyfriend and some friends kept filling up an empty Mike's or Smirnoff with juice and giving it to a ditzy girl, that proceeding to talk all night about how wasted she was and falling all over the place. I do have one friend that doesn't have an off switch. If he has 3, he has 10. We'll switch him over to NA beer if he gets too out of hand. He doesn't get whiny from being cut off, and just proceeds to get slightly less sloppy as the night wears on. No, I haven't, but I have a friend who likes to act drunk when, to our knowledge, he's never drank around us. He either says that he drank right before meeting us, and shows no signs of being drunk, or he sneakily drinks when no one's looking. This is one of my favorites. We got a friend to shotgun about 5 non-alcoholic beers in a very short period of time. We were by a fire in the dark. and he kept trying to look at a percentage, but we hurried him by yelling mean things at him. After the shotgunning, he started to stumble and got a bit violent. It ended when he pushed over one of our strongest friends, who then got up, flipped our drunk friend over onto his back and yelled, "You're not freaking drunk. Stop acting like a moron." To this day he still claims that even though it was a very low percentage beer, the quantity he did in such a short time was enough to actually get him drunk. A normal beer is 5% alcohol. A non-alcoholic beer is 0.5% alcohol. 5 non-alcoholic equals 1 stroke 2 of 1 beer. If your friend was 90 pounds and had never had a drink before, he may have been a little tipsy. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.